You have probably heard of Windows XP, haven't you? That's because for a period of time after its release, it was the most popular version of Windows until it was overtaken by Windows 7, which is something that is getting a dedicated video, and it holds a special place in the childhood hearts of many people, with its colorful Luna interface, its nice icons, and its very popular desktop background Bliss, as well as a selection of its system sounds, such as its startup, shutdown, and error sound, leave it being one of the most iconic versions of Windows that Microsoft has ever made. But you don't really find it too often to this day, do you? Well, I mean, if you're in the first world, and probably also the second world. But that's going to be the epicenter of today's topic. So, to go into a bit of history, we need to go all the way back to the late 90s, where Apple was surviving its near fate. Sega would release its to-be last gaming console, and Microsoft got their hands in a bit of hot water with the US federal government, specifically its Department of Justice, over Internet Explorer. However, due to this antitrust case, a lot of stuff about Microsoft's internal stuff and became publicly available. After Windows 2000 was released, Microsoft was planning on making a version of NT numbered 5.5 that would be offered to consumers in both the typical business market and, for a first, the home market. These two versions of Windows would be codenamed Neptune for the home user base and Odyssey for the professional market. Both Neptune and Odyssey did not last very long, and in fact, what is it? Oh, it's Dread. And while builds of Neptune were created and compiled and whatnot, no builds of Odyssey are known to exist. Also, a bit further down the road, there was apparently supposed to be an operating system Microsoft was going to work on called Triton, but this was only mentioned in planning documents that we know of because of antitrust case. But with Windows 2000's release, Microsoft began work on its next major version of Windows, which was part of a plan of its next three releases of Windows, the two major versions, Windows Whistler and Blackcomb, and then a release in the middle of these two called Longhorn, which is a reference to the British Columbia ski resort featuring the two mountains called Whistler and Blackcomb. On an off-topic, a brief shameless plug, I am working on a series dedicated to the development of Windows Longhorn, but let's not get into that right now. So, with that out of the way, development began, and changes were actually fairly straightforward. There wasn't too much stuff. There was a visual theme that was implemented as like a non-final one to deter people from finding the actual one, and they selected a new logo for this new version of Windows, which was chosen from a selection of apparently around 50 logos that were proposed, if I remember correctly. By 2001, development was still going quite along, and this was when the public started to get a better understanding of the operating system. And in May, Microsoft announced when this operating system would be released. This is from an article I found from the BBC, and it said that they were going to release it in October. It was mentioned that this would be too late for the back-to-school market, and also, apparently I find this interesting, upon this announcement, Microsoft's stock dropped a tinge. Microsoft also had a marketing slogan planned out of "Prepare to Fly." This is a topic that I don't think I really want to get into. Because of the... You know what? Let's just move on. Just for sensitivity reasons, following an attack, the slogan was changed to "Yes, you can." Before this, in August, Windows XP was released to manufacturing, and Windows XP was released on time to retail, with some interesting things with its marketing, such as a promotional event in Times Square, and various promotional materials that were given out as usual. I mean, Windows 7 had hamburgers and anime girls as promotion in Japan, but Windows XP would eventually rise to quite a fair market share, even though there were still some holdouts on Windows 2000, and many people even stayed on XP after Vista was released to a disastrous public perception. Windows XP was discontinued to some degree in 2014, which was 11 years ago, although some versions got support even as late as 2019. And in fact, XP is still quite popular in some areas of the world, or with some markets. For example, it's used fairly frequently apparently in the US military, and in fact, Microsoft does apparently still provide updates for XP to the military. But with that out of the way, I think we should look at the computer that we're going to be using for this video, which would be an HP Compact 6005 Pro small form factor with an AMD Athlon 2 X2B24 at around 3 GHz, 2 GB of RAM, and I think a 500 GB hard drive. We also have integrated graphics, but this thing originally shipped with Vista, so that doesn't really matter the most. And it has 10 USB ports, but I think we should start this up now. Oh, yeah, also we're going to be using the Media Center SKU instead of, like, Professional or Home Edition because Media Center's got a bit more stuff, so, you know. I bet that sound seems familiar to you if you grew up in the early to mid 2000s, didn't it? And let's just get straight into it. In terms of applications, we still have Paint, which is a drawing application that has been included with Windows since its very early days. In this, we can make drawings and whatnot. I'm opting to draw plain, so that's cool, I guess. Moving on, we have the calculator, which is a program that lets us perform math equations. Fairly simple, and it works and stuff. I personally would probably use my TI-84 or Casio FX300ES, but if you ever need it, it's here. Next, we have the Windows Media Player, which on this has been updated to Windows Media Player 11 for XP, and it's a program that lets us watch videos, and listen to music. However, with this version, we have Windows Media Center, which is better for home entertainment.
Because I usually don't cover this guy's stuff. But I guess, well, since this is an extra content channel.
We also have Internet Explorer 8, although this originally came with Internet Explorer 6. As well as Windows Movie Maker, which is probably where it first saw its major success, even though it was included in Windows Millennium Edition. Probably because Millennium Edition became a dumpster fire with its public perception. Next, I want to go take a look at some of the different applications that were popular at XP's time, starting with Microsoft Word 2003, which was included as a part of Microsoft Office 2003. We also have Microsoft Excel 2003, which is Microsoft Excel. We also have Adobe Photoshop CS2. Many content creators from this time used Hypercam 2 if they were making videos that they were going to post onto the internet. Last but not least, if you weren't using the Windows Media Player or you didn't use iTunes, you were likely using Winamp, which had been around even in the days of Windows 98 and remained popular during XP's time. Next up, it's time to play some games. I don't really have too big of a selection for this video since, well, time constraints, and I am also going to omit some videos that I typically include in gaming sections of videos, notably in this video, Peggle, and for this older system, Quake. So let's get one of the best games out of the way first. Touhou 7 Perfect Cherry Blossom, a shoot-'em-up game from 2003, which is pretty hard. I actually am not too bad at this game, which is interesting, since these games are kind of hard. Next up, Bejeweled 2 from 2004, a PopCap game, and it runs on a lot of different things. It ran well on my family PC back in 2010, and it is quite a fun game. No wonder my parents played it, or at least my mom did, back in the days before games like Candy Crush were popular. Another popular game is the PC port of Halo Combat Evolved, a Xbox launch title that was an FPS title. I've never played it before, but I think I might actually enjoy it a bit. Actually, I'm somewhat not that bad at its gameplay, even though what you're only seeing here is cinematics because my phone was starting to run out of storage. I think you can get the point. Next up, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which, like Halo, I have never tried before. This game is from 2002, and in fact supports some of the older versions of Windows, so yeah, it's a cool game. But I do have to edit out the audio here because the radio has Michael Jackson playing, and I don't want to get copyright. Last but not least, in terms of new flashy era-respective titles, there's SimCity 4, which is a city building game, meaning that it's fairly simple, and I kind of like it. I generally like games like this, so that's not too much of a surprise, but here's SimCity, I guess. Windows XP also had some decent, I guess, support for older titles, such as Half-Life, which you can see here. And in fact, some games, I don't know why, but some games I have played on XP don't play on 2000, but work on 9X. It should be noted that older games, at least from a 2001 perspective, were oftentimes designed for 9X, and as such, couldn't really play them on NT, although Diablo 2 supported Windows NT, so there was some effort to start supporting games on NT, so that's generally going to be about it for gaming. And that's generally going to summarize all I really want to get to. Overall, XP is quite a nice operating system for its time, and is still kind of popular and nostalgic to this day. It isn't the best idea to use it as a daily driver, but you can find antiviruses, and you can get a web browser working on it, so, I mean, you could probably daily drive it, but it's probably not the best idea. But overall, I don't really have anything else to say. Windows XP is just really nice.